Mhm. So I see people are gathering up. So while they gather, I'm going to do like a little intro of our live stream today so everyone knows why we're here. Those of you who haven't registered in advance perhaps don't know, but today we're here with SheFi and Protofire to talk about the women building Web3. Well, this is obviously a live stream we've organized. Not obviously, I think we should be doing this more often with this focus, but this time around, we organized it around International Women's Day, which was yesterday. It's a very important day to celebrate, but at the same time, if you ask me, women should be celebrated every day because we are honestly the like foundation of everything the world and the business world is coming to, honestly. So hopefully today we'll bring some insights and some tips and some knowledge to different women, especially those who are looking to pivot to Web3 or just starting off their careers and want to work in Web3, by giving them some of our experience, some of our knowledge across different areas of Web3, and as well as through SheFi, which we're going to talk about a little bit later as well. So I'm very happy today to be joined by Daria, who's a colleague from Protofire, and also Naomi and Ella from SheFi. We also have Caroline joining us in a few minutes, but she'll be here soon, and I'll intro her separately. But okay, short intro of me. I'm Layla. I'm your host today as best as I can. And I'm here to represent Protofire as the events and partnerships manager, but also to represent SheFi as a chapter lead. So I'm the best of both worlds. And I have with me today Daria, Naomi, and Ella, as I mentioned. But I'm going to go in random order, ladies, and just ask you to give us a short intro, a couple sentences of who you are, what you do. We'll dive into your roles a bit later anyway. But yeah, maybe we can start with you, Ella.
Definitely. Well, hi guys. Thanks for having us, Layla and Daria. My name's Ella. I'm chief of chef. Oh my gosh, I can't even speak. It's a Monday. I'm chief of staff at SheFi, which is it's a very varied job. We actually only have four full-time people on the team, so there aren't tons of staff that I oversee, but I kind of I'm like Maggie's right hand, and work on the SheFi courses, which are 6-week courses that kind of covered the basics of Web3. I assist Naomi with events and social media, and then we also are working on some cool new initiatives for 2026.
Perfect. Thank you for the intro, Ella. We're very excited for the initiatives for 2026. We got our eyes out. And speak, maybe let's do one profile, one SheFi. Maybe Daria, we can hear from you now. Could you give us a little intro?
Sure. Thank you, Layla, for inviting me. This is my first event, like as a speaker or like on live stream or something. I'm very nervous, but I am with Protofire doing recruitment in Web3 for, I think, for 3 years. How nice. So I've been hiring all sorts of professionals from marketing and sales to engineering and whoever else. So I am happy to talk a little bit more about hiring in Web3, how to stand out, how I see that like from the other side, and maybe share. I hopefully will be able to share something useful so more women can come to Web3 and build awesome things.
I'm sure you will. Thank you for the intro, Daria. I'm very excited for your insights and your tips as well. And last but definitely not least, we have Naomi. Naomi, could you give us a little intro as well about what you do shortly and yeah, why you're here today?
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much to Protofire for having Ella and I on. I am currently leading events and socials and marketing with SheFi. I've been with SheFi for almost 8 months now, and it's just been a complete dream. It's a dream role, and I get to work with amazing women every day. So, yeah, I am looking forward to this conversation, and hopefully, Elle and I can give some insight onto SheFi what we're doing.
Definitely. I'm very excited for all three of your insights and tips. As I mentioned, Caroline's also going to join us. She's also from SheFi, and she's also very incredible and has great insights to share. Let's give her a couple minutes, but in the meantime, let's just so it's still interesting for our audience as well while we wait. Maybe we can just start diving into the topic a little bit, and then we'll give Caroline a moment to intro herself as well. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, today we're talking about women building Web3. So, that there are the roles that we have right now, how it's different in Web3 specifically, as well as the gaps and the hiring playbook for people looking to break into Web3. My sentence is getting all chaotic. So I did prepare some questions, but I want to be like a relaxed chat. I'm just going to ask you, feel free to jump in whenever you want to answer, or if you don't have to. But I feel like everyone has some insights to add at different points here. So I'd love to hear your answers, any questions you may like. So start off, I'll ask, tell me about your current role in Web3 and how it is different from Web2 and traditional businesses. Naomi, for this one, I'm going to, if possible, ask you to give your tips as well, because I've gotten a lot of questions in the comments and the DMs from marketing professionals who are looking to break into Web3. So perhaps you can give us some insights about like how it's different for traditional roles versus Web3.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting is now as time goes on and as this industry maturates, I feel as though the kind of native Web3 spirit is actually evolving into becoming a bit more Web2. I am noticing a trend of a lot of Web3 companies hiring more Web2 native people. However, there is like a very intense, I think, cultural difference. That's to me sort of like the most evident thing where like in Web3, things are so constant because the market actually doesn't sleep. So you're doing things at all hours of the day. I think in terms of like turnover time, it's just like rapid. And usually like in, whatever Web2 companies, whether it's in tech or finance or business, like there is kind of like a standard operating procedure, whereas in a lot of these Web3 companies, which let's be real, like most of them are startups, things are very kind of informal and fast moving. And I think when it comes to like the marketing perspective, um, just in general, like I think people having a really close kind of eye on trends and like what the sentiment is a lot more, I think, relevant than in Web 2 because the sentiment is much more of like this subjective thing of like how I am feeling, but in Web 3 we are paying so close attention to like how is the industry feeling, like how are people feeling because of the market and everything like that. So it's definitely a challenge in that sense, but yeah, I don't even know if that answered your question.
Yeah, I definitely did. I really appreciated that. Yeah, and I agree. I feel like maybe as Web3 is getting more normal, it's sort of going back to Web2, like things that like people like factors that are like more noticed in Web2 are starting to move to Web3 as well. At least that's what I'm noticing. Maybe because we're becoming less of a niche, maybe, and more of like a normal industry. I'm not sure. But Daria, Ella, maybe you guys have something to add as well about like how your roles are different in Web3 versus Web2.
Um, I would say that Web3 requires more ownership mindset because in Web2 or fintech, there's like, a lot of bureaucracy and waiting processes and waiting for approvals. So, like for every breath you take or every step you want to make. Well, in Web3, it's more required to, okay, you want to do something, you go and do. You don't wait, you don't receive like 100 yes and approvals from the top like executives. You are executive. If you have an idea, go test it, go do that, just do that. Don't think, do. Because I believe with the development of Web3 there are so many people doing things, um, and that if you don't do that, someone will do that instead of you. That's it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like I really agree with that, Daria. I think that um oh, let me know if I'm cutting out at all. But I think that I studied filmmaking, which is really different than Web3. And during college I interned at like film production companies, which film is an industry that's like been there forever, and they have like a really like deep rooted set of like this is how things are done, this is how people get hired, like you know, this is the, and even if there is the option for a better process, it's like, no, this is how things have always been done. And I think that coming into Web3, I was like really shocked by what you said, Daria, which was kind of like, you have to implement things and just like do things. And if you're not doing something better, like somebody else will. And I think I started at a Web3 startup doing like content and some film stuff and was like super confused by the industry. I left after 3 months. It was just a contract role, but I was like, I'm not doing this right. I don't know what's happening on crypto Twitter. Like, I don't understand anything. And then I joined SheFi, which was like a much better way to ease into the industry. But I think we've just had so much fun because, like, if Naomi and I have an idea, there's no like bureaucracy or like there's nothing is like gated. And I think if we do something and we're excited about it, like we do it and it works. And like we've really grown SheFi in the past year. So that's probably my favorite thing about the industry.
Thank you, Darianella, as well. Those are great insights. And yeah, definitely agree with what you said. And I think that mindset of being like, of owning what you're doing as well, or just having the courage to just stand behind your ideas and test them out, etc. I think that may be one of the things that's a bit hard for everyone to get used to, at least, or you either like maybe should prepare for that mindset because it's really different from traditional companies. Honestly, it doesn't appear that way, but when you're in it, you notice that, okay, there are a lot of different sets things, and those mindsets, especially that you guys mentioned, I think those skills are necessary to be ready for. And we're going to dive more into what you should be like looking out for, etc. But just those points I think were great to mention, as well as what Naomi said. So I think that was a great answer to my question. I'm very happy. I'm going to move on to my next questions, but feel free to drop questions at the comments, either on LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever you're watching us from. And at the end, I'm going to do like a little Q&A session with questions I've collected in advance or anything you've dropped below. So yeah, let us know if you have any specific questions you'd like answered. So I want to ask a little bit about the blockers right now for women entering Web3 or getting hired. Well, they're changing roles or pivoting to Web3 completely. So I'd ask you, maybe Daria, you might be interested in this, or anyone actually. What do you think is the biggest blockers for women in practice? Is it the skills they have? Is it the pay difference, the leveling clarity, or maybe the culture? What exactly do you think is the biggest blocker, in short?
I will not be original, and I think this is something we discussed when you offered to join this live stream. I would say that self-confidence. This is something I really, really want to every like woman that tries to get into any job, including Web3, to have. I feel like women have this tendency of lowering their achievements and thinking of them less than they actually can like be, and or maybe like this tendency of self-depreciation, which in interviews you have to oversell, you have to maybe over promise, maybe lie somewhere. Yeah, sorry. You have to be very confident in your skills, even if you don't know something. Just say, well, yes, I know how to do that. You can figure it out later. Like, nobody knows things. Nobody does that. So I've been having a lot of interviews with women who are awesome. Like, their experience is just so great. But I was having some cases when they were saying, oh, that's nothing, I was just, doing paperwork, or I was doing like just interviews or just lead generation. And you can't help it, like you can't push this person forward, although you see that they were, I don't know, like selling to protocols, creating communities, um, doing forks of like some DeFi projects and so on. And you see that by their like in their CV they're great, but they just can't. I don't want to use the word sell themselves, but just show how awesome they are. And this is something I just really hope that everyone of us can achieve someday.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. And honestly, not to be that girl, but when I sort of went into Web3 with minimal professional Web3 experience. I was like involved getting crypto and stuff personally, but I didn't have the professional knowledge base or education specifically in Web3. And I started like blind, let's say. I felt a bit lost at times, especially a bit overwhelmed. But I did join SheFi after I joined Web3. And honestly, I told you, Daria, this privately as well, that I think, for instance, SheFi in my case, it gave me the confidence I needed. And then honestly, I grew in my role as well, even though I was already in Web3. It helped me grow in my role because I was less afraid, or more confident is the better way to put it, to showcase my skills and showcase my like knowledge. Like, okay, I do know this. And if I don't know anything, I always had a community to go back to and ask. So in terms of that, I think finding the right community is also a great way for women to build the confidence that Daria mentioned a moment ago. That's important for anyone who's looking to get hired, to grow in their role, etc. So yeah, I just thought I should add that because whenever anyone mentions confidence in Web3, that's what comes to my mind. But Naomi, Ella, do you want to add anything or?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we talk about this a lot at SheFi. What you touched on, Daria. I think that like crypto is like an industry that's really it's like really easy to breed imposter syndrome because like I think most people in Web3 like honestly don't know what's going on most of the time. I feel like I don't even know what's going on half the time. And I think when you're new to that, and especially as a woman, like we've seen with a lot of people that have gone through SheFi, like maybe you take SheFi and you feel like you understand the material, but then you're going into your first interviews in the space and they're completely different from traditional industries. And I think that like I do think that confidence is hard because there are so many men in the industry, which I know Naomi can touch on, that are just like, like they think that they can do anything. And they're these like 20, 21-year-old guys that are like, yeah, hire me because like I'm the best person in the world for this job. And I think that like that's definitely something that we've seen. I would say like another barrier to entry too in the industry is honestly just time. Like I think unless you get a full-time job as you're learning about it, I think it's really hard to get into the Web3 space without devoting like hours on X and trying wallets and like swapping and messing up a few like investments or trades or whatever it is. And I think that like when someone has a job in Web 2 and they're spending like 9 hours in front of a computer and then they're going home to try to learn about like the crazy Web 3 industry, I think that it's just there's like a really high like level of entry. And I think hopefully over the next few years, like UI and like UX will be simplified and like made so that people can jump in without like doing all this prep work.
Oh, before we go on, Caroline has joined us. Hi, Caroline. How are you?
Good, how are you?
All good here too. Layla here, Naomi's here with us today, Ella's here, and Daria from Protofire is also here. And we're very excited to have you. We did jump into the conversation a little bit, but I want to give you a moment to intro yourself as well before we proceed with the rest of the chat.
Okay, so first of all, I apologize for being late, but I have this session in the morning, on Monday mornings that it's good for me, so I need to go. So I'm right out of the gym, so I'm sweaty, I'm looking terrible, but please excuse me. So I'm Caroline, and I'm a she-fire from cohort 12, I guess it was 12, so 2024. And SheFi has changed my world tremendously. I'm a former HR executive that I decided to start to do some consulting work and then found SheFi, and so kind of put me on a whole new path of do new things in my life, which has been amazing. I'm a chapter lead for New York City, and I'm also one of the co-leads for the SheFi Investment Club. So, I kind of have pivoted my career. I wouldn't, like, people are saying to me, oh, you're retired? Well, I'm retired from corporate America, and I am like pursuing other things and dreams here in the Web3 space. And my goal is really to educate other women, particularly Gen Xers and baby boomers, in why the Web3 world is so important. It's not, I'm not here to tell them they have to invest or buy Bitcoin or whatever. You can do whatever you want, but you just need to know it's here to stay, and Web3 is really important. So from a career perspective, I mean, my words of advice are, if you're new in the space, keep pushing hard and networking. Networking is going to be the key to everything. I've just, I tell my kids that all the time. I'm like, look, it's like who you know to get in the door, like that. So the SheFi network is fabulous for that. So, if you haven't spoken to somebody, but you see they have a connection at a company that you're looking for, that's where I say you need to step in and you need to kind of take the ball and run with it and kind of really push yourself forward. And it's hard. It's hard nowadays. It's hard to find a job, A, and B, to get into a new space is even harder. But don't let it discourage you. Keep learning as much as you can, and leverage the SheFi network as much as possible. And that's kind of my 2 cents. So, so I'll let you continue the conversation, and I'll pipe in where I feel like it's appropriate.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Caroline. Thank you for the intro. And we were just talking about actually how, because some of us have already experienced SheFi, like for instance, obviously the SheFi team, but also I am a chapter lead as well as I'm both Profire and SheFi here. So we did touch upon how SheFi affected us and our confidence, etc. So you just added on top of it. It was like a perfect like match for the conversation. Didn't feel like you just joined at all. So thank you though for being here. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna go back to the questions now, and feel free to jump in. It's an open mic for everyone. So just let me know you want to answer and we'll go through the questions together. Okay. We just talked about like the biggest blockers to women in Web3. And we also did sort of touch upon like how women get filtered out most often from Web3 rules. But if there's anything you want to add specifically about being filtered out. So do you think women get mostly filtered out at the hiring stage, or is it when there's a market downturn, or perhaps when the leadership changes? Like when do you notice a pattern of women mostly getting filtered out?
I have a great example of, so I think it's very early on, to be honest, because I feel like people don't think you have the experience in the space. So I'll tell you a quick 2-second story. So I was at ETH Denver, and there was 10 of us. We had an Airbnb, and we went to one of the, it was called Exodus. So they have a new wallet. So we're like, oh, let's go check it out. They have a cafe. We'll go check it out. So like 4 of us walk into this cafe, and a young girl comes over, and it was a young female, and she comes over and says, ladies, excuse me, do you know you just walked into a private event? And we're like, yeah, this is the Exodus event, right? We're here to learn about your wallet. Like, and we started banging her with questions, and she was blown away. Like, her assumption was that we didn't know anything about crypto. And so I think there's those assumptions that happen, right? And so you have to step in right away and kind of give your 2 cents and say, I know what I'm talking about. Here's my experience. Here's what I've learned. So I do think it's early on, unfortunately, but the networking thing helps, right? So if you have a connection, that will certainly get your foot in the door.
Definitely agree. Unfortunately, it is upon even first glance that we're filtered out, right? Especially because it's such a, well, whether we like it or not, it is, I guess, a fact that it's more male dominated right now, Web3, unfortunately. And I think that it goes back to confidence maybe, but it does give them the opportunity to filter you out even at the first glance, just because you're a woman when you enter a space like that. But you need to, as Caroline mentioned, just make sure you're confidently stand by your knowledge, your skills, and just represent them, and show them that this is my space also. Ella, Naomi, Daria, maybe you have anything to add, or feel free if you want.
I yeah. Okay, go forward, Ella. Sorry.
This is just a quick comment, but I also think like going off of what Caroline said, I think another way that we've seen, first of all, like that is just so accurate. I've been to so many crypto conferences with SheFi, and like sometimes I feel like people are almost like bewildered that there's a girl like walking up to them and joining a conversation. I mean, that being said, like I do think my experiences in this space have been really positive. I think even the men that we've worked with or who have come to SheFi events, or that like that are our partner companies, like they've actually all been great and really welcoming. But I do think there's just like Caroline said, like there's just that initial moment of surprise where they're like, oh, and they're not like, you shouldn't be here, but it's just like you can kind of see in people's faces like the first surprise. And then I also think where women get filtered out too, which I see in SheFi a lot, is a lot of women get pushed towards like marketing events, like social media, like etc. Those type of roles. And I don't think, again, I don't think it's any like no one is like meaning to like filter women into those categories, but I do see that, especially with some of the partners that we work with that are men. They kind of assume like most of the women in SheFi want to go down that track, maybe because the women on their team are doing that, or it's their previous experience. But I have seen women in SheFi complain like, I'm a dev, I don't want to have my face all over X, I don't want to do marketing, like I just like the technology and like I'm building projects on blockchain. And I've seen that sometimes it's harder for them to almost like convince people like, oh no, like you can hire like you can look at SheFi for engineers or software development or whatever it is.
Yeah, oh, sorry, it was
Yeah,
Daria. I
I
was
want.
gonna just call you. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say maybe like a little bit from the other side. Web3 is male-dominated field, and there is a trend for diversity. So I would say that wherever I'm sourcing and I'm seeing a girl profile, I am like, I know it's wrong to be biased, but I am, I am putting much more effort. Sometimes I'm like looking for more ways to contact because I think it's great to have more women in a team. And I see that management is also like very pro that. So like I sometimes talk to people, to managers, to executives, and they say we want more women in our team, especially development. That's like that's great. It works great with clients. It works great within the like team atmosphere. In Protofire we have three women engineers, and they're great. Like we call them sometimes diamonds, and sometimes like my one of the managers, like team lead, they come to me and say, hey, have you found another like diamond like this girl that is working with us? And I'm like, well, like I'm so sorry, I really want that to be not, not diamond, but more common, like more people, more women joining, especially on the dev side. So I would say that this is like the moment to build this, moment, to momentum, and just go for the role, because you will stand out just being a woman.
Definitely agree there. And I feel like maybe it goes back to confidence. Again, this, I guess the theme of today is confidence, but maybe women should be more confident to put themselves more out there, especially in such roles. I know that it may be a bit like from, as you mentioned, from we have, yeah, more women in marketing and events, etc. So perhaps it feels more easier to adapt to that role in Web3, or in general, just to apply to that role, feel confident. But then when you apply to more technical roles, perhaps due to the discrepancy, I'd say, you feel a bit more like cautious, or maybe you're just not as confident to put yourself out there. But be confident. Whatever you do, whatever it is you're doing, you should just stand behind it, show yourself off. Don't feel like you're going to look like a narcissist or anything like that. That's not true. Just show yourself, show off your skills, show what you can do, stand up for yourself, and just be your, like, you mentioned before, Daria, like you don't want to tell them to sell themselves, but yeah, in a way, just market yourselves. You need to market yourselves, because that's really how you, like, and having the right network and marketing yourself is just the way to go ahead with building a career and a network and a profession, etc. Whatever you're pursuing, especially in Web3. So thank you so much. I loved all of your inputs there. That was a really nice way to wrap things up on that end, because I feel like that's a lot. Like the filtering question, especially, I want to ask, because I feel like a lot of women have different stages when they're filtered out of a certain, like, let's say, role or situation. But there are some things that we all shared in common that most of them will be able to relate to. So I think it was worth highlighting that it's not just you. We all go through similar stuff, but there are ways to play around it. Now, to go to my next question, I'm going to go a bit to the hiring side of things, because I know that's what a lot of people are interested in as well. I want to ask, I'm not sure how easy this question will be to answer, but feel free to answer it as you want. Do you have like maybe a 3-step guide or tip that you can shortly share with our listeners so they know how they can go from curious in Web3 to hireable? Especially Caroline and Daria. I would love to hear from as HR experience ladies, but if anyone else wants to jump in or if you don't want to, that's okay.
You need to showcase what your abilities are, right? And so if you're particularly on the dev side, like, you have to provide some examples of some of the work that you've done so that you can showcase what you can do. I think that's the best way to get it noticed. And I'm glad to hear that Daria is like looking for it. Like, I think people are looking for, women in the space. And so I feel like we need to do a better job of promoting ourselves, as you said before, like just showcasing yourself and just giving examples of what you've done or share something that's pertinent in the space. And don't let yourself get niched into something that you don't want to do. Like, be really strong about what you're strong on your convictions in terms of what you want to do. I know you said something about it like a 3-step process. I mean, I think it's just, networking, confidence, and networking. I mean, it's just kind of keep going. Don't give up. It's just, it's hard. It's always been hard, right? No matter what space you're in. But I would say, just keep networking and keep networking. And I mean, and you leverage the people that you've seen, or if you saw somebody on a podcast or something, like, don't be afraid to reach out and say, hey, I was really interested in what your thoughts were, and this is what I'm trying to do. And I feel like people are very, very willing to support one another in the space.
Yeah, for sure. I agree there. Again, we went back to confidence, but there's just no escape. Confidence and networking are so important in this. Like when we're talking hiring, especially, I think it's one of the two of the most important things. And Daria, did you want to add something as well? I feel like I interrupted you again.
Yeah, I think I have two things in mind. First is, oh, okay, okay, do you hear me? Okay, good. First is that it's a great thing that Shifai does. At least what I heard of that, you like kind of ensure that people who like women who study there try things, not just have a wallet and just have a wallet, that's it. I had numerous interviews with people who say that I'm Web3 expert, and I was like, okay, what protocols do you use as a user? And they say, oh, I'm just holding a Bitcoin, or I'm just having a wallet. And then you start asking, like, have you used any lending borrowing protocols? Do you participate in any communities? Anything else? And they're like, no, I'm just reading news. And that's not enough. You have to even on the entry level, you have to well, yeah, you were gonna risk some money, you're gonna make some wrong decisions, but having practice and talking about that's great. And second thing, this is a real case that I had with a woman in Web3 when we were hiring for a role, and we already had 2 final candidates. So we were our hiring manager were making a choice between 2, not even 1. So and I was talking with this candidate, and I told her that, sorry, we are on final stages. I'm not sure if it makes sense to, start everything over with you. And I even found this. She said, would it be worth me having a call with the hiring manager so he or she is aware how good the other options are out there? And after this response, I was like, I'm getting you into the process right now. This is so good. And really, I would just write it down and use it. Maybe it will not be, 100% effective, but it shows how, again, confident you are. And that's just won my heart.
I think I love when you ladies incorporate stories as well because it just shows like, real life examples that back not we're not just doing the talk. We actually have seen things, experienced things. And I think that's very valuable for our listeners. So thank you for that as well, Taria. And Naomi, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to add on to Caroline's point about the importance of networking. Of course, this applies to like any profession, being able to build relationships. But one thing that someone said to me early on in my career in Web3 that always resonated is this industry, because it can feel very extractive and fast moving at times, a lot of times when people reach out to you, whoever you are, it often is going to start with an ask. Okay, what does this person want from me? And it's really important to put yourself into the shoes of the person that you are trying to reach out to, whether it's a hiring manager, whether it's a potential mentor, whether it's someone that you want to collaborate with, whether it's a potential partner. I think the thing that I really believe on like a human level is it like on top of networking, actually building a genuine relationship where you're getting to know the person is like the fundamental difference between like just being a person that kind of just knows people and then being the person that actually connects people, which is a very valuable thing to bring to the table. um and so like it's for me, and I think as women, as very like intuitive beings, we're very easily like attuned to like a conversation or a dynamic where it's like this person just wants something from me. So I think just like going into like new rooms, new conversations, like building relationships with people, like keep in mind that this is not someone, or this is not an opportunity for you to just get something from someone. It's an opportunity to learn and build and nurture a relationship over time. Every single opportunity I've gotten in my career, like both in and outside of Web3, has been from me nurturing relationships. And yeah, like Caroline said, like literally aggressively jumping into DMs of so many people that I would never expect for them to respond to. Like having, the audacity to like reach out to all of the people that you're like, I want to know, what your brain is saying, is also, I think, just like a very yeah, attractive and compelling thing to people. And it kind of builds like an aura, like magnetism around you. And I think, anyone that's looking to like work in Web3 or is pivoting their career here, building those relationships in a genuine way is, I think, the, like sort of the foundation for everything else to come.
I would agree. And I just want to add on to that, Naomi. You know, for every 10 people you reach out to, you may only get one return, but don't stop, right? Like you got it, you have to kind of, hey, I heard your talk on this podcast, or I saw you at a conference and I'm really interested in what you have to say, and here's what I'm thinking. Like you have to put a little bit into it as well, right? It's not all about taking, it's also about giving. But don't be disappointed or discouraged, right? Like just keep going, because people are busy, and so they're not responding because they don't want to. It's just because they don't have the time to. And so, but you'll find that little niche somewhere along the way, and that connection, and you can make it happen.
That was a great way to put it. Thank you, ladies. Especially like the having the audacity part, I think really stuck for me because I think sometimes we're afraid to have the audacity to reach out, to do follow-ups, or just to be like, hey, did you get my application? Even that question itself, just messaging someone that on LinkedIn or just doing an outreach email or whatever it is, like we get very nervous about it. We get like, are we going to annoy the person, etc.? No, worst case scenario, they're not going to reply. Like, it's not the end of the world. We need to feel more confident. We need to stand up and just like, okay, you know what? I'm going to make my voice heard. You need to make sure you're just marketing yourself, how we said before, to stand out from others, right? Because what you offer, you're unique. Whoever you are, whatever experience you have, trust me, you're unique. You bring something to the table that someone else may not be. So just stand up for it and believe in yourself. Have the audacity to believe in yourself. That's how I'll put it. Okay, that was amazing again. Thank you, ladies. I want to move to the next question. I think Next question is very interesting in terms of our listeners. I think for just understanding as well the approach, because some people get lost here. Is what I want to ask basically is how do you go from education or receiving education or learning to career ready? Like, especially with SheFi, you can do, obviously, there are different tools out there to do some self study on, let's say, Web3, but how exactly does this community system that SheFi also offers on top of just education help make someone feel career ready? Does anyone want to? If that question was too complicated, I can break it down.
No, that's a great question. I mean, I feel like so what before I worked at SheFi, I actually did the SheFi course when I was working at this other Web3 startup and doing a really bad job. And I think that like first of all, I know you're asking about more than the education, but I do think that education is just like the most important thing. Like I think once people have like an understanding of like this is why Web3 exists, this is like the ideal of what people are trying to build, and then also this is how I can get a wallet and use it. I think I just like I've had people come up to me at SheFi summits at different conferences before, being like, this is a really cool event. I'm having so much fun, but like, I don't know how to get a wallet and connect a PO app. And like, I can just see that they're just like stressed out and they feel like out of it. And they just like, they're listening to the talks, but maybe they just feel like they're missing something. And what we always do is we'll be like, okay, like, we'll go find a group of girls, be like, who's taken SheFi, who can walk her through getting a wallet and like starting this process. And then I always notice by the end of the day that like the people that came up and asked us questions are just so much more relaxed and like feel like they're like part of things. So I do think that education and just like understanding how it works is huge. I think beyond that though, like SheFi's community is just so big. We're 30,000 people now. And we have chapter leads like Caroline and like you hosting local events. And I feel like, I don't know, like even I just moved to London and Naomi's in London and we went to like a SheFi breakfast on Friday. And I was super stressed because we had so much to do for class starting, but like I met a few more girls in Web3 and like even knowing like a few people in your city and then a few more and then a few more that are all kind of doing the same thing and that you feel like you can reach out to, like it's just like, oh, if I have a stupid question I can text a friend instead of feeling like you're doing it by yourself. So that's probably the most valuable thing about SheFi. Obviously, like the events we do are really great too, just because sitting and listening to women on stage that have been in the space forever and that are like doing incredible things is just like, I think it's really inspiring, and it's like okay, getting a job might be hard, but like I'm really excited about what these women are building, and I feel like that's motivating too.
Yeah, that's definitely something I noticed when I was doing some self study. Like, I think like even just asking Maggie after class, at the end of the class, or just having that group where you can ask the question to 30,000 women who have either already experienced it or are experiencing with you. Perhaps you didn't get something in class, but they did, and they can just answer like to help you out. Having that, just having like you turn around and you have actually 30,000 women behind you, that's like a different feeling than just doing it alone, honestly. So yeah, I think that community aspect is very important for sure, and I think it's what makes SheFi stand out from just regular. Oh yeah, there are a bunch of presentations, a bunch of YouTube videos, but a bunch of whatever, but I never got the confidence I did until I did SheFi, honestly, personally. So yeah, does anyone else want to add anything? I just jumped in again.
I can ask maybe on top, add something on top of that, of community and networking. In the AI era, I think it's very valuable when someone approaches you with a question on a topic that you feel passionate about. And like, I know that many people prefer to go to Claude or ChatGPT or whatever and no, just chat with them. But that's what like let people talk about the thing that inspired them, and this is both way to educate yourself in the like community and also make a networking, because that's a great thing to approach to a person that you have like no idea how to approach. I am very introverted person. I hate ice breaking, and I have no idea how to do networking. But if you have actual interest in a product, and like this is a great thing to ask. You can approach people in LinkedIn, you can approach people in Shify saying, hey, who can explain me that? Oh, where are you working? Or I'm like, and this is how you can build a networking as well.
Yeah, definitely agree there. And it's so nice to hear because you haven't joined Shifa yet, I'm hoping. But you know, for even from your experience, like I'm sure you've come across like at different events or even online events or different communities I join. Like I see different Shifa members over like, oh wait, you're also Shifa. You know, you can reach it like you can already have that community there and it breaks the ice a bit as well. Like just say starting off with, yeah, I'm a Shifi chapter lead already helps you break the ice, you know. So I'm an introvert also. So these things, again, that's why maybe I'm so stuck on confidence, because as an introvert, you need to have like a boost of confidence from somewhere, at least in my experience. And that definitely helps me, honestly. So thank you for the answers. Did anyone else want to add anything? Or I know we are running a little low on time ish. So I want to just jump into some questions that are also related to the Q&A from the comments. We're getting some interesting stuff there. But does anyone want to add anything here before I do? We're good? Awesome. Then I did see some comments that are like relevant to my actual planned questions as well. I noticed mostly that it's about the application process. Like there was a specific question where they asked about what if I do have the skills and I just do like write on paper that I do have these skills, that I am like, even though I have a traditional business experience, I can actually have a lot of skills to bring to a Web3 company as well. But how do they actually convince the hiring party that, yeah, it's not just written there? Like, so I think Caroline, you mentioned about proof of work. Maybe it may be like building a portfolio website or something like that. Any specific ideas that you, maybe with your HR experience specifically, can tell our listeners like, hey, you should do this to stand out in an application process?
I think, well, the world I came from was pharmaceutical and medical device, so it was very different. But I just think it's getting your foot in the door to let people know that you have the experience and some of the things that you've done. And I think you really need to showcase that on your resume. Like you need to make that resume stand out. You need that resume. It can't just be some bullets, you know, you have to get pretty specific. And always what I encourage people to do is make sure like you show the numbers, you show the output, you show within that document so that it captures people. And nowadays with AI too, like you can use that tool to help you, like, because it'll match up what's in the job description to what you've done. But wherever you can be very specific about something, I think you need to do that so that people know it's not just fluff, right? That you're actually, if you're on the dev side, you're actually building, you're actually doing stuff, or you've accomplished things. So that would be my 2 cents.
Awesome, appreciate that. And maybe Daria, you have any experience where you're like accepting applications, like Caroline said, like if do you notice the proof of work in an application? How do people tend to, what stands out for you, let's say among applicants when they have a portfolio like added to their resume, or do you want them to send you a different, like maybe a traditional cover letter? Like what exactly would be a good way to showcase it in your experience?
I would first like say that for engineering people, I'm talking mostly like about Web2 people transferring to Web3. For engineering people, it would be awesome to see their GitHub with some open source projects. That's just, you know, will be a great sign that the person not just read something in the internet, but also tried something. That's certainly for the people who are not like in engineering, like sales or marketing. I would look for signs of personal experience. Maybe we have this question, describe your experience with blockchain in the application section. And I really like when people mention actual like projects there, like, well, I used Avi for that, I used I don't know, like Safe for that. And that's really shows that person knows what they're talking about, even though they just just created a safe account. They know what safe is. This is something that already helps you to stand out to like other applicants. That's for certain.
That's good. I'm going to take note of that. I'm going to make sure if I ever need to prepare my resume again to keep that in mind. Well, Ellen, Naomi, actually, maybe you would have a different touch here. I've noticed in crypto Twitter, let's say, that personal branding and having like an active social media, etc., is more important than in traditional businesses. Do you agree with that, or is that really not that important?
Yeah, I mean, it really just depends on the role that you're looking for. I think in general, like the meta has been for a while to really focus on building your personal brand because you never know what kind of opportunities will find their way into your orbit when you put yourself out there. Really, like all I've seen, especially from this kind of like ripple effect of SheFi alumni building their personal brands, is like the most insane opportunities coming their way. And not everyone is in the same niche per se. Obviously, like a huge part of that are the girls who are doing, their own content. And then there's also girls who are doing content and marketing for other companies. But I've also seen girls who like have completely freelanced it entirely and are getting contracted with really great jobs with like some of the most reputable brands in the space. And some of these literally will just come from like a single video that gets a great reach. I've seen it actually probably like in the time I've been with SheFi, like 3-4 times, like a girl will post a video that does really well, and then someone offers them a job. So that's why, getting over yourself, climbing cringe mountain, as I like to say, is, I think, yeah, a really great foray into putting into allowing people to access you a lot more easily. And just like Caroline said, and just like Daria mentioned, like having that proof of work, having everything on your resume is so important. But what are people going to see when they look up your name? I think obviously now in this industry, it matters quite a bit. I know that even like when I had been trying to look for jobs previously, like everyone wants to know your Twitter handle, sometimes your Instagram. So it does seem to be relevant, just depends on the role that you're looking for, of course.
Definitely agree there. There's some SheFi girls have such cool like Twitter accounts. I follow almost everyone as much as I can, and I see like really cool posts and stuff that inspire me to also get more out there. So, keep going, girls. And if you're trying to pivot into Web3, that's why I precisely want to ask this, because I feel like that's something you should keep in mind. As Naomi also mentioned, like having that personal brand is a bit important here, I've noticed. So, yeah.
Also, sorry, one other thing I want to mention because I don't want to forget. So, one of my best friends is also in recruiting and she's been a hiring manager. She's been like in that whole world for like almost 10 years. And something interesting that she like has always shared with me and I've noticed myself is, even though there are a lot of like barriers to entry for some women just in terms of this like demographic spread, it's obviously super unequal. A lot of Web3 companies are specifically looking to hire women because they're noticing how, male their teams are. So I've heard it from literally so many startups in the past few years that I've worked with, especially when I was working with Solana and working directly with startups. They're all trying to find women. And that's why, like, now being a part of SheFi, I feel grateful to be a part of such a expansive network. So don't get it twisted. Like, obviously, we have challenges here culturally in terms of making this a welcoming space for all women. However, I just want people to, like, at least recognize that, at least internally, a lot of these teams really do want women. And, I think that it's just becoming more and more evident over time, especially as I really believe that the woman's touch that like anyone will bring to a certain team and that like different perspective is so essential. You know, men can be very, very fast moving and kind of like, you know, instinctual, but I think women also just have way more patience and sometimes more room for nuance in their thinking. So yeah, there's a lot of people out here that want to hire girls.
Daria actually had to drop off. She was running off to an interview, hopefully to hire a woman. So, yeah, there are definitely a lot of people who are on the lookout for women for different roles. So it's just about showing off yourself and making yourself reachable as well, for sure. Ella, sorry, you want to say something?
I also have to jump for a call, but I just wanted to say thank you so much. It's been a great conversation, and thank you all for joining.
Thank you so much for being here.
Bye,
I'm going
guys.
to try wrapping up as well, just before I let both of you go. Just one question that also is standing out, maybe you ladies can help me with, that I've noticed a lot of people ask is, okay, we're new, we're entry level employees, like we're applying for entry level roles, and but how do I, because they're asking for experience when you hire for these roles. I think this might actually apply to women and men. This is like a blocker for both sides, but for entry level roles there are a lot of experience being asked for that people don't possess because they're just starting off their careers. Do you have any specific tips, or maybe they should focus on that, showcasing your skills on your resume side more?
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in. I think, oh, sorry, I don't know if
No, no, go ahead, go ahead.
I'm just gonna, um, yeah, I'm just gonna share like insight that I've heard from other hiring managers and stuff. I think it's actually very, very difficult to enter Web3 looking for entry level positions. Um, it's not impossible, that's for sure. I do think that you need to have adequate experience outside of Web3 and have at least you know, some expertise that can be relevant and applied to whatever you're looking for here. Just because it's Web3 and everything's new doesn't mean that people don't want to like be hiring the most skilled and experienced candidate there is. It is like becoming increasingly more of a competitive, and I would say a little bit more of a polished industry than when I first entered it 5 years ago. And I am noticing that, like, yeah, those entry level positions are very, very difficult to come across, and people do want someone that has at least, you know, 2 years of experience. So, like, what I would recommend is honestly, like, you can try to like reach out to people that are like within your network and just ask to like basically shadow them. So this would be like, you know, comparable to like an internship, right? But it's like not formalized. And you can just get like an insight and stepping into their world, like seeing what they do day to day. For instance, like I had a girl message me over 6 months ago saying that she wanted to start making content and being a content creator in Web3. And I told her, okay, talk to like these 5 girls. And as soon as she connected with these girls, she was like instantly already, you know, gaining traction online and like building a body of work. So it really just, I think, requires a lot of, yeah, initiative and putting yourself out there and, you know, really kind of just like demanding a spot at the table, even if you don't necessarily have the experience. Like there's no harm in even asking the question.
And I would just add, look, startups, no matter what industry you're in, and I've worked with several of them over my career, you know, it's really hard to do entry level positions because they just don't have the ability to have a large staff, right? So they need people that know the jobs that they require. But that doesn't mean you can never get in. It just means that you have to keep learning. You have to keep learning. You have to keep doing, as Naomi mentioned, make those connections, shadow people, work on projects on the side. You know, one of the things that I've found really helpful is like, the great thing about SheFi is like, you can always go back. So like if you didn't quite get a concept, you can go back, or like this season, they're going to talk about new subject matters because they're new in the AI space. So it's just constantly learning and just building your basis. And over time it will work out, but don't be discouraged. Just keep networking, keep trying different things. You know, go to some of these conferences. You know, I did my first hackathon, you know, which was awesome. Like, I'm like, my kids are like, Mom, you're not a hacker. I'm like, but I went to a hackathon, so I am a hacker. But you got to keep trying, and my point is, you just got to keep trying and keep learning and building your skill set. And eventually you'll get there. You'll land that job. You'll land that dream job. You just don't give up. That's all I can say. It's just never stop trying.
Yeah, that's really a great way to put it. Never stop trying and don't give up. Honestly, I think, yeah, right now the industry is it can feel a bit stressful and discouraging for a lot of our listeners who are maybe applying for jobs. We have all been through that, I'm sure, at one point or another, so we can relate. But trust me, like, I know it's a bit tough right now. I know it's a bit hard. The industry does seem a bit stressful, but just it's okay. It happens in every industry, and you just got to stick out. Take advantage of this time, learn, develop yourself, develop your skills, whatever you feel you're lagging, or if you got any feedback. If someone refuses your application, try to ask, okay, why, and learn why, and then work on that, develop that. So never give up, never be discouraged, and you can make sure everything, whether negative or positive, can be turned into something useful for you and your future. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me today. I tried my best, I think, to answer all the questions. By the way, Caroline, we got a question about women and investments. So maybe we can circle back to that with the She Invest Club to talk more about like how women can feel more confident in investing in the future. So that's definitely something. I know I didn't get to touch upon that today, but we just didn't have time and the topic was a bit different. But I really appreciate you. I know SheFi is about to start its new season, so maybe ladies can talk a little bit about that before we sign off for our listeners who want to maybe apply.
Yeah, I'm going to leave that to Naomi, but I'm just also going to make a plug for the SheFi Investment Club. We meet every Friday. And so for all SheFiers, anybody's invited. And we talk about all different things. We talk about wallets. We talk about security. We talk about privacy. We talk about borrowing and lending, how to do it. And you don't have to have a lot. People are like, I think, a little scared because they think you have to have a lot of money to be involved. You don't. If you have $5, that's perfect. Like, you just want to be able to learn how to do things. It's another way to showcase, as Daria mentioned earlier, that you know the protocols, you know how they work. And so I would just encourage, like, step into those little avenues along the way that can get you there. But I'm going to turn it to Naomi to talk about SheFi in the next season because it's going to be the best one ever.
Yes, quick little plug in here. We are still accepting applications for season 16. Classes begin March 17th, so feel free to submit your applications. We still have applications coming in. This is going to be our largest season ever, so please come in. We're going to be covering not just crypto concepts and blockchain, but also AI as well. So a lot more stuff added to the curriculum that I feel like is very pertinent right now. Also, I have to run. Thank you so much, Layla, for your time. Thanks to everyone so much for listening. So glad to be a part of this conversation.
It has been amazing. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining, and for everyone who has listened to us, watched us today. Thank you so much. It's been great. Drop your questions. Continue dropping your questions below. I'll try my best to get it answered by the ladies as well. And yeah, thank you so much. Have a lovely rest of your week, ladies, and talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye, everybody.